Welcome to Whiskey Sex Talk. I am your host, Romeo. Joining us today is Dominique, founder of Yes Tantra. We are going to be talking about the pick me girl. So the term pick me first started on Twitter under the hashtag tweet like a pick me, which was used to mock women who fall under the guys girl category. The phrase has experienced a renaissance among Gen Z, generating 2.2 billion views on TikTok. And an infamous 2005 monologue by Grey's Anatomy Meredith Grey inspired the satirical trend on the app. So let's get started. What does pick me girl mean? Do you know?
From my experience when I've seen it, I love that you give that backstory from where it came from. I see it in my coaching. I see the energy of it everywhere I look. So I'm just like, stop doing that without even knowing that it was a popular tag. I was coaching a client this weekend. I was talking about the pick me energy and guiding through that because you see it a lot. I experienced it from inner childhood wounds of not feeling fully chosen by our parents. So we're constantly seeking that love and attention, words of affirmation, praise that maybe our parents did not give us as well. And it's also mixed in a little bit with our programming from growing up watching Disney movies and wanting to be the princess that's rescued. And when is our Prince Charming coming? And we're the princess and we're the most beautiful thing. And we look like Snow White or Cinderella.
You're so on point with that. The pick me girl is the girl that seeks male validation at the expense of other women, by indirectly or directly insinuating that she is not like the other girls. She literally is the girl that likes to hang out with the guys, drink beer, watch sports instead of hanging out with the girls, going out for brunch, etc. It's interesting because when I think about the pick me girl, of course the Grey's Anatomy thing was like the big thing, but I'm going back to rom-coms, like high school rom-coms. The tomboy girl that hangs out with the boys, and then there's like the jock that discovers how beautiful she is and how much in touch she is with her feminine side. And there is a problem to the pick me, because right now there's this thing, the pick me culture, and we're seeing it. Every girl is not like the rest of the girls. And we see it. Empowered women that want to define what it means to be a woman. But I think what ends up happening is that these pick me girls end up like, how can I say it? They end up hating on girls and everything that represents women. It's better to embrace womanhood and what it means to be a woman than to attack other women because of who they are or because they're feminine or they're different. But to single yourself out and set yourself apart from the community is not healthy.
I've had some of those experiences for Tantra. There's a lot of that where I was a pick me girl. I grew up being a tomboy. I think part of it too was living with my mom divorced, and probably wanting to be around more like masculine, boyish energy in a way. Even though I wasn't dating at a young age, just being around boys, I think because I didn't have a father figure and I was just around a woman so much at home, like being in a different energy, even if I wasn't aware of energy, I would gravitate towards boys. That's something that I was missing in my home life. I think we get programmed a lot from parents and stuff to have this competitiveness amongst one another. I'm not sure ages where girls start to be more competitive. Even women as adults, sometimes I might be more comfortable having a friendship with a man instead of a woman, even though that man might have a crush on me. But also understanding the man is not going to be competitive with me. If I'm having conquest or having hookups or doing my thing, they're not going to be a judgmental, that I'm not having that part of that competitive thing that happens with women. Think of caveman times. For women to survive, to be pregnant, give birth to a child, you need to know that the man is going to be there. I read something, and I'm not sure if it was a citation from a study, saying that women back then looked to be with men that were with other women because that man was demonstrating that he would have the qualities to protect a woman. So there started being this thing way back in our primitive years when we're trying to survive in the jungles and the wilderness.
Right.
We needed to be around a man to be safe and to continue the species. So somewhere I think in there we got ingrained of having that competitive. Don't take my man. Like a bunch of little things started
Yeah.
happening there before there's cell phone technology. And in times when the women were housewives, if the men wanted to roam and play, a lot of times men would not want their wives to have other friends. Because if they're having other friends and talking amongst themselves, if the men has some extracurricular activities that he doesn't want her to know about, she's going to find out through the grapevine. When I was in a relationship in my 20s, I was in a relationship with a man that he was intimidated by my female friends. He would tell me that my best friend since for decades, but at the time he would even say that he had sex with her to make me jealous and would try to tell me that she wasn't really my friend. So there is also men feeling the power of women uniting. There's layers to this for sure. We'll stay into the pick me, but I think it comes from things in the past that have us uncomfortable with one another, which is really unfortunate.
You really touched up on a couple of things that I actually I'm glad that you brought up, because here's the thing is that this concept, I feel like it comes from the idea that these women want to be chosen by men that they surround themselves. They either do it subconsciously or consciously. They adapt their personalities to appeal to the male gaze, right? She isn't just someone with, let's say, the traditional masculine, the likes and the dislikes. She's someone who her intentions are to center men in her decision-making process. The problem with that, to me, I feel like it's reinforcing the patriarch. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can all fall into it, but I think that we have to be aware. What does it mean when you're a pick-me girl? What are you doing to yourself as an individual? And how is that affecting your relationship with your women friends? I know a lot of girls like that. And look, I'm an actor. You're in LA. We see these pick-me girls all the time, all over Hollywood. The hot girl who says she's like one of the guys. She's around with all the guys. We all know that. She wants to be the only queen among guys. I call it the queen bee mentality. She wants to be like a queen bee. But the pick me thing does nothing for women. I think there's a lot of things that we need to unravel, because if you're a pick me girl and your goal is the whole male gaze, right? What is that saying? What is that really saying about who you are? I want to talk about James Bond, but I feel like I'm going to go deeper into this. When you're a pick me girl, your perspective is that the man's pleasure and interests are paramount, meaning like they are often at the expense of the needs, wants, or even humanity and others. So you're putting his needs first before yours, which goes back to why so many women feel guilty. They suffer from shame. It's this whole thing that we believe that, oh my God, if I separate myself to be like the one girl, the exception to the rule, then he is going to like me. But you're not doing yourself anything. If anything, you're playing into that his pleasure comes before yours.
A lot of it is going to come from subconscious wounds had as young children, because of the high divorce rate, the broken homes. I had a very close relationship with my father in my most formative years, and we were super close. Then when he married someone else and moved out of the country, I didn't hear from him for many years, from the ages of 8 to 15. So all of a sudden I have that missing. Some young women never had their fathers around for very long at all, not even in the first most formative years. I will say for myself, because before I started my path of healing with Tantra, I was operating like Samantha on Sex and the City. I was very promiscuous. I was really comfortable in my sexuality. But as I look back at it, I can see where I was needing a lot of validation from men, a lot of attention from men. So I'm literally allowing men to plug into me because I'm getting their full attention in those moments. And I'm feeling that power even sometimes within my sexual energy to really hold that attention, because there was so much of that I had missed for so long, or I had unhealthy attention from my mother's partner that she dated later. And so I didn't have healthy relationships with men. If you have codependent patterns, which mother was an alcoholic, and if you are people pleasing because your parents do not show you that your needs are valid and they don't meet your needs or your emotional needs, then you learn from a very young age that to stay safe and to be cared for, you have to look at other people's needs first. That's what's happening.
Yes. I like that you brought up the childhood trauma, like childhood issues, because what ends up happening is if you don't get that sorted out when you start dating as an adult, like in your 30s, your self esteem is going to be so low because that's what it says. That's what it screams, that you have low self esteem. You can out in this world thinking, "Oh, I'm not like the typical girl. I don't like the pumpkin spice lattes. I don't like Taylor Swift. I don't like the girly stuff." What ends up happening subconsciously, you're contributing to the system of the patriarch and you're not challenging it, which is what you're supposed to do as a woman. As a woman, you're supposed to come into your own womanhood and challenge the patriarch in your own way. I'm not saying to dismantle it. I think that we all need to challenge things so we can create that paradigm shift that we need to become our true authentic self. What bothers me is because along the way is that it's very toxic to be a pick me girl because what are you doing? You're criticizing the conventional identity by cringing or oh, I hate that, I hate this. It does nothing. If anything, it's just adding more to the toxic world that we're living in due to social media and everything just moving so fast. But where do we go from here? You mentioned it, you touched up on it. Like you yourself, you realized that you were one of these pick me girls at one point in your life. You had to take inventory of where did it come from?
It's such a waste of your time and your energy. In addition to it feeding into the patriarchy, it takes away from you in your life if you're constantly focusing on other people's needs before your own. That's why self-love and things like that are so important. So you can start to focus on yourself and not feel like that's selfish. Because when you're a kid, your needs are completely dismissed. In the United States, 95% of adults received inadequate parenting. How many of the 95%, when they start dating, have any kind of therapy or any kind of self-awareness about that? What are our abandonment wounds? What are our attachment styles? What are our love languages? We are not taught those things. Think also about early childhood when our subconscious mind from ages 0 to 6 to 8 is like a sponge. We literally are taking things in without being aware of it. Anything we're receiving in our environment from our parents is going into our subconscious mind. Sometimes we can be doing things subconsciously, but also at that age, we're watching movies like Disney movies, let's say Cinderella. You have your evil stepsisters. And how many movies you have an evil stepmother? It's like the women against women. Then after the ball, do you really think the prince kissed Cinderella and couldn't remember who she was? So then her stepsisters are competing and trying to fit into this slipper so they can live happily ever after. And how often now are women trying to make ourselves fit into something that doesn't fit us so that we can be chosen and have the prince, and we're rivaling against other women. This has been programmed into us from a very young age. So it's about having that self-awareness. Where did this come up for me, and how is this impacting my life? And I will add here, since I was so sexy and I would dress very sensual.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
My oldest daughter was more tomboyish for a while because my oldest daughter was not wanting to lean forward with trying to be too sexy or getting too much attention. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not that she was against women, but that's when we're trying not to be like our parents sometimes.
It's very cyclical because she's a tomboy by nature, and that's perfectly fine. But all the other women are going to be like, you're weird. You're not part of what it means to be feminine. And here's the interesting thing is that it's internalized misogyny. When women subconsciously project like sexist ideas onto other women and themselves, it could be difficult to spot the patriarchal society. It's very toxic. We got to accept everyone for who they are. Why did I say that? It's perfectly fine. If you want to be the epitome of what it means to be a woman, feminine and fragile, I'm just giving just very shallow examples, that's fine. And if you want to be a tomboy because that's who you are, that's fine. If you are a middle of the road, you're a girl that likes to wear dresses at the office, but at home wears jeans, that's fine. It's fine if that's who you are. The problem is when you subconsciously are participating in this game that you think that you need to be a pick-me girl because you'll get these types of results. You are devaluing yourself as a human being. You are doing yourself nothing but digging yourself in a terrible pit where you're not going to know who you are. Men, of course, are going to trample over you because at the end of the day, men do want women, strong women that know themselves. Let's just be honest. If you're feminine, you could be strong still.
It's not just the patriarchy, though. A lot of it is consumerism. It's
Right.
about making money, marketing to women, having women always think that they need to have the makeup and have this and look so glamorous. What are the mainstream media show us about images of women? These crazy, unattainable goals, people that even on the covers of magazines on a regular day, that person doesn't even look like that. But that's how we're comparing ourselves to a cover model. Do we look like this? Are we having that? And so it's to feed consumerism by having people feel like they're not enough. But women will pay more money for a shirt than a man would. And it
Right.
can be the same fabrics.
What's the
We pay so much more money. And we feel
Packs.
like we need to wear cosmetics and XYZ. And it's really bizarre. And it is about the patriarchy, but it is also about profits. The more they can have us feel we're lacking. For me, though, shifting to understanding there's a big sister wound. And I went to a beautiful workshop about healing the sister wound.
I love
It
this.
was ran by one of my coaches, Christine Hassler. She's epic. It was really powerful. And it was just a bunch of women being together through the weekend and really being supportive and going through practices and crying together and raging together and being through all the emotions and talking about things. And it was really beautiful. We need more safe spaces like this for women to come together. And even as humanity, even as men, as women, it's more about collaboration over competition.
Exactly.
That women were taught. You think cheerleader, who's the most popular? Who gets to be head cheerleader? These are the things that for so long have been in our society.
And that's the thing, is that when a girl or a woman notices there are like a plethora of other women for men to choose from, there is that painful, scary feeling that can take root in the brain. What happens to avoid that future feeling of rejection? The mentality is born within a girl that if she deems the concept of a typical woman, most men will pick her out of all the available ones to choose from. So the pick-me girls, really what they seek out is that male attention in order to feel safe. You said that from the beginning. You said something that you need to feel safe, but in order to prove that other women are non-threatening, they must first invalidate themselves. It's really crazy. This internalized misogyny that is going on with women. I love that you went to that sisterhood healing, because the thing that's happening on social media is a lot of girls are calling out other girls. Oh, she's a pick-me girl. She's this, she's that. Hey, that's not the approach. The whole point is not to be calling out, oh, that girl's a pick-me girl, right? The whole point is, how can we all accept both energies, the feminine and the masculine? There are women that are a little bit more masculine. You work in Tantra. You know how that works. There's guys, too, with feminine and masculine energies.
We all have masculine and feminine energy, but we suppress parts of it. In our culture or society, feminine energy has been viewed as weak for so long by both
Exactly,
men
right.
and women from the workplace.
Mhm.
I want you to imagine a battery, not to say one of these energies is negative or positive, but just the duality, the opposition of energy. So one side is masculine energy, one side is feminine energy. If one of those is missing, you're not going to have the spark. The battery's not going to work. There's not going to have any energy or any charge to it. We need to have the balance of both. Whenever we repress parts of ourselves, this is even in shadow work. At first, I was more the wild woman and the rebel, and then I started going into Tantra and love and light. So then I started pushing some of those other aspects away. Now it's that duality of bringing all those parts of me together, bringing in the masculine and the feminine, the dark and the light, because in the duality, the yin and the yang, we're whole and complete. We're a full force, and we're not diminishing parts of ourselves or repressing. Because if you're trying to reject your feminine energy, it's like having a bunch of beach balls and you're just trying to push them down under the water, push them down under water, and it's exhausting after a period of time.
It goes back to knowing your shadow self, to find that complete wholesomeness, who you really are, to be confident. Because look, like, essentially, you got to be true to yourself, no matter what other people think, and respect everybody else. There's no need for women to be against each other. You got to come together and be like, okay, she's like that. We just got to accept her. This whole pick-me culture is so toxic.
This also comes into play. I'm born on Halloween. I'm a natural witchy woman. There's also a thing called the witch wound. Imagine back in the day when women would come together in groups, they were so powerful, but then women are being hung or burned at the stake because they come together. There's a lot of things that are underneath that. And dating in our society It's so frowned upon when women are single. Oh, why are you single? Oh, you're so amazing. How are you single? Of course, that makes women feel more of a need to be chosen and not to be single because you don't want to be the lonely old crazy cat lady.
I
Yeah.
am at that age where people are like, why are you single? Oh, there's something wrong with you. It was affecting me for a while. I can only imagine how it is for women. Oh, why don't you have kids? The
Yeah.
whole like typical thing. It was really getting
Yes.
to me, and I was like, screw this. I got to be true to myself. I cannot give into this pressure. I just got to be me.
For me, I went from pick me energy to picking myself. Now I pick
Exactly.
me.
Pick me, yourself, you alone. That's beautiful. Dominique, thank you for saying that. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for today. Dominique, thank you for being on the
Yes.
show.
Thanks for allowing me to be here. If anyone wants to work on self love,
Yeah.
that's what started freeing me up and started healing me from trauma. The 3 tenets of Tantra are breath, sound, and movement. When I became a trauma informed master coach, they were sharing that the 3 things that support healing trauma are breath, sound, and movement. I was like, oh, wow, no wonder I started healing myself and attracting better relationships and having a better relationship with myself when I began my journey with Tantra. I didn't want to go the regular therapy route because I was just like, I don't want to be crazy. I don't want to just go to a therapist. I was in denial about my shit.
Sometimes you got to find what works for you. There's cognitive
Yeah.
therapy, there's coaching. People, you got to find it. You got to liberate yourself. And whatever that is, I love what you do. Yes, Tantra, I love everything.
you.
You've been on the show, you've talked about it. I really think it's all about self healing to be a better person on this planet. We need to start eliminating toxic
Yes.
mentality and being toxic individuals ourselves. I can't account for other people's free will, but I can account for my free will for sure. I can't account for that, and how do I do that? By working on myself. That is
All
it
we
for
can do. It's an inside job. Yeah.
Thank you, Dominique. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for
Thank
today.
you.
Till next time.